I'm the co-founder of Kingdom Impact Lab, along with my amazing, incredible wife, Tattoo, who does the Motherhood Moment videos. And in this video, I want to share with you why success can be so isolating. So in this video, I will talk to you a little bit about how things can feel a little bit lonely in your business when you reach some level of success. I'll explain why I think that happens. I'll talk about my own personal experiences, and then I'll talk about what to do as the solution to this, as a solution to this, or more precisely what works for me. So just very quickly, the purpose of these video series is for me to explore different ideas. I don't have any notes of what's in the video. I want to understand all these pain points and topics myself on a deeper level. So the more I understand it, the more I'm able to come up with better ways to explain complex ideas into simple ways. So it actually helps people more so than doing what's the easy thing, which is using big words and descriptive language to describe concepts that you'd see in a textbook, but nobody understands them. So I'd like to invite you on the journey with me. I don't know how long the video will be. I don't know where it will end. But hopefully you find that a little bit more fun than just trying to read off some script just for the sake of it. So if you see me looking down at all, I do have a page here where I've just printed up the video titles, and I do have, I've just jotted down a quick point to make sure. So if you see me look down, that's what it is. So let's get in. Why success can feel so isolating? Well, first of all, what is the definition of success? Oh, I heard someone called Myron Golden, who is an entrepreneur who talks about selling high ticket offers and helps people do that through the lens of biblical teaching. His videos are on YouTube. I find him fantastic to listen to. A definition of success that he gave is, and I'm going to butcher this quote, so don't copy it. The definition of success from his perspective is, it's to uncover your unique purpose on earth, and then to deploy whatever it is that your purpose is, so that you can have the biggest impact on others possible. Something along the lines, don't quote me. So in essence, success means, from this context, that it's to uncover what your purpose in life is, and then to become the person you need to become in order to execute and implement your unique purpose in the best way possible, so you can steward your gifts and your abilities and your purpose for the benefit of others. Is essentially what it is. And he was saying that success, any success without uncovering your purpose is not success at all. So having the money, having the wealth, having the car, having whatever material possessions you have, you're not successful if you haven't uncovered your unique purpose. And I happen to agree with that a lot. That resonated with me a lot because I do believe that each human is unique, and even if you look at this through any kind of lens, not just sort of the Christian lens here, you look at this through any lens, that every single human on earth is unique, and that is objectively true. Even with identical twins, that they're still unique. And they're unique because of the specific life experiences that they've had, the specific interactions that they've had with the world, the specific things that they've done, the specific way they've interpreted events in the world and the lessons that they've had from them. So every single person on earth is unique, and because they've had a unique set of life experiences that contribute to the person that they are today, that no one else has ever had or ever will have before them. and that is objectively true. So if every person is unique, it means that every person has some kind of unique gift or skill that they can use to steward to others. And that unique gift and skill is going to be based on your life experiences, everything that you've had, specifically the struggles that you would have gone through and the way that you found the way out of the struggles, because then you can steward your experience of going through some kind of struggle in order to help other people get through the same struggle that you have. And everyone is unique in that situation. So I agree with that definition. But from a more practical perspective, again, let's have a look at what success might mean through the lens of financials. And if you watch any of the videos, I do talk about why it's so important not to focus on making money, and why making money is not the only goal, and all of the problems with it. But perhaps this is something I've only recently realised, is that it's much more nuanced than that. I have a friend, and she's always busy, doing this, doing that, doing the other, too busy to meet up with us, too busy to do this, too busy to do that. And I always kind of wondered, well, why are we doing this? And then the once I asked her, so well, what are you currently doing? What's the end goal? What's the point of it? What do you hope to achieve? She couldn't answer me. All she could answer was she wants to make this amount of money this month in order to pay the bills, because their expenses have gone up this month for a variety of different things. So, okay, so what's the goal for the next quarter? Maybe make this much money each month. Okay, fair enough. What's the goal for the year? I don't know, Sam. Okay, what's the big picture goal? What's the ultimate goal? What is the thing that you're aiming for by working, 12, 14, 16 hours a day towards? What's the end goal? What do you hope to achieve by doing this? Sam, can I get back to you another time? I'm too busy at the minute. I've got these things, I can't think about that. And at the time, I was baffled with such a response, because we'd had conversations before when I'm talking about my own experiences in the past, with my issues I had with my former business, issues I had with freelance, what solutions I'm testing, sharing with the transformation I was going on, getting her insights, and how would this impact the way that you operate. And I spent a bit of time giving her worksheets and trying to talk her through. And at the time, I noticed how excited she was by the stuff I was telling her, that you can operate a business and you can do what you're doing now, but you can do it through a biblical perspective as well. And it'll probably work better than what you're currently doing. It excited her, but it was sort of excitement in the present moment, because the second that she'd left and gone home and gone on to do the other things, it was all gone. She also mentioned before that something that I printed out for her and gave her, that she reviewed it on her flight back home once, and she found it so valuable and this and that, but which then led me to think that, well, what I've just given you, clearly you found it valuable to some extent, so why am I not kind of applying it? Why am I not taking at least the first step? Because the first step is pretty straightforward, and it's kind of, well, what do you want to achieve? What are you working towards? But you couldn't answer it, and like I said, I was baffled and I couldn't understand it. And I've got other friends that are the same. That I texted a friend last week, I think it was, and how we're doing. Oh, busy. I've got a million jobs and I've got all of these things and blah blah blah. And well, okay, fair enough. You're busy, but busy doing what exactly? Busy to fulfill the endless, infinite stream of tasks that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, at the expense of focusing on what you want to do long term? Maybe, I don't know. And I'm kind of I've been wrestling with that kind of concept of why people like this. Why don't you know, try to set yourself a bigger goal? Because if you set yourself a bigger goal, you know, so with my friend, she wanted to make just enough this month to pay for the expenses, and that's as far as the vision went. That's as far as the goal went. Well, why not set yourself a target that you want to be making 10 times your monthly expenses per month, if revenue is what the target is? Because at least then you're aiming 10 times higher. And even if you don't hit your big goal at some point in the future, you're probably going to be far more successful than if you just set your goals as increasing by 10%. I just couldn't understand it. And now I think I do understand it, or at least I've got an idea of why it happens, and that all boils down to what success means. So, for me, my own personal journey was as first of all, I wanted to make enough money working online in order to cover my monthly fees so that I could travel. And my monthly fees while my wife Tatum and I travelled was about $1,500 a month on average. Some months a bit less, some months a bit more, but on average we were spending $1,500 or so a month. So our goal was to make $1,500 a month, and that's what I focused on, because I had a reason for making the money beyond the amount. And then we did that. And then after that, it was to focus on making more than that. And then so what was the next amount? Well, I'd spent a lot of time studying and learning and training as I do. I've got an insatiable curiosity to learn, which is a gift. Not many people would be happy to sit and study and read and learn and all day, but I am. It energises me. So that's what I did when it comes to copywriting, selling offers and marketing and different things. And there was always a number that people said that they wanted that sort of the gold standard to achieve. And so I set that as my target, and then I worked towards that for several years, and then one day I achieved it. And so when I achieved it, I thought I was successful, but well, the enjoyment lasts a lot shorter than you think, and so it's on to setting the next goal, which naturally my previous goals as a freelancer was revenue based, so obviously my next goal is going to be revenue based as well, and so that's what I set myself. So I'd literally just invented a figure out of the air where I want to make more than double what I'm currently making per month, and then I feel unsuccessful after a surprisingly short amount of time because I'm not hitting it, and the goal itself lacks meaning because, well, what am you gonna, there's no meaning in achieving the second, third, fourth revenue goal when you're increasing every time. If the only goal is to increase revenue as for the sake of increasing revenue because you've got nothing else to aim for. So that's basically my own personal journey, that I went from having a small amount for the purpose to cover my travel costs. The longer we could do this, the longer we could travel for. Well, that was a good deal at the time. And then I set myself a higher goal and I worked towards achieving it. But at that point, I'd achieved financial security in my own life. I'd achieved some level of financial comfort where I didn't have to worry about money. We built up a small nest egg, so we had, enough to cover expenses if things didn't turn out right. And then I set myself another goal, which was way up here, and then I started to beat myself up when I didn't achieve it. Well, all of this here ties back to the definition that Myron Golden gave on success, which is your purpose in life is to uncover your unique purpose and then become the person you need to become to use and steward your purpose for the biggest impact that you can. Well, I had none of that. So the goals themselves were empty, and so inherently I was unsuccessful. successful. But anyway, that was my own personal journey. But the point here is that there was different milestones in this process, and this does relate to the story I was saying earlier, because, well, setting my first goal in order to cover monthly expenses while I could travel is the same as what I was describing with my friend, where her only goal was to cover the monthly expenses this month. She couldn't think anything further than that. And when I was back in the days of travelling, which was, well, we started maybe 10 years back, 2015 I think we started travelling, maybe 2016. The only goal really was you're looking at how much money you have, so that you don't run out of money and you don't find yourself with nothing left and stranded and whatnot. So the goal is that you have a certain amount in the bank account as emergency money, and then you're making the month to month, each month, to cover your travel costs. But also because you're travelling, so you're spending a lot of time on buses, trains, planes, and various things. And then you have to plan where you're going, and when you get to a new place, you're there for the adventure and to explore it and to learn about it. So you're not dedicating your time to growing your business. And then you have to plan your time where you're going to stay, so that you can block time off to work and get into some kind of a groove, so you can work and so you can earn the money to travel. And then because you're moving from one place to the next, inevitably some of the Airbnbs you stay at are better than others, and some are not really very good, such as issues with late night noise or noise during the daytime, and various things like that as well. So the point is that there's a lot of distractions to focus in towards the goal, so you don't have the mental bandwidth to focus on anything bigger. I heard Joe Rogan on one of his podcasts say that the way that he views things is that you have to look at your mental energy as, to say, 100 units per day, and all of the other things that take away your attention, all the other decisions, all the other things, they've eaten away your attention, eaten away. So as the day progresses, you've got less bandwidth to focus on what matters. Well, that's exactly what happened with me, which is why I'm only focused on making month to month to month to month. And that's exactly what was happening, or at least that's a hypothesis on what's happening with a friend, because she's busy all the time, focusing on what the goal is. And because you have less mental bandwidth, it's hard for you to then focus on what's a bigger thing and allocate more time and attention to things that are hard, which is coming up with new things and then having the courage to basically step forward and act on them. And so at that point, there is intrinsic meaning in what you're chasing. And so if there's intrinsic meaning, you can be successful. You can define whether you're successful or not by, did you make this amount of money per month in order to pay the bills? And you'll find that most of the time you probably will make that money to pay the bills this month. It's not like you're going to be evicted or suddenly have to go to a loan shop in order to make money. You'll find a way to do it. So that's the month to month to month. And so you can look at it by achieving that goal, which is a relatively low order goal, as successful. So when you achieve that level of success, it's only successful because you've just covered your basic needs. You've just covered the essentials on like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've just covered, the food and shelter side, and food, water, shelter, and things at the very bottom. You've got no bandwidth to do anything else because so many things are happening. So what's next? Well, the next thing that you do is, if you get into a groove and whatnot, then you might start to think of what's better, what's the next thing. And then typically this is going to happen as you get older and you mature as a person as well, because the goals that you set in your 20s are going to be different than the goals and the things that you do in your 50s, for example. Different priorities, different levels of risk. Well, after you've achieved the low order goals of you're making enough money to cover the monthly expenses, Or the next goal, the next natural goal that you're going to have is to become financially secure and financially comfortable, and maybe even financially independent. So it's all of these goals that I'm tied in. So in that case, if you're working, you would have some kind of a financial target that you want in savings or investments, and essentially you're working to retire, is what a lot of people say. And people are working to retire because, well, they believe that their only goal is to secure money so they have cash flow when they're older on a month-to-month basis, so they don't have to work. They don't actually have the intrinsic meaning in the work, which is kind of sad, because most people spend more than a third of their lives at work, and if you find there's no meaning to it, other than chasing the illusion of retirement, or the promise of something in the future that you may or may not be around to receive, but may or may not even exist when you get to that age, is kind of, it's a shame that things happen. But regardless, most people, let's say in the late 20s and 30s, and probably pursuing some level of financial security, financial comfort. If you have a business, you want to generate enough money on a month-to-month basis, quarter-to-quarter basis, however it is that you measure it, in order to have your business operating and functional and self-sustaining, so you actually have a business to run. And so this goal that you're moving towards is intrinsically meaningful, because of course you need to have financial security and financial comfort, which essentially financial comfort is essentially when people, like I used to say that I want to make a lot of money for freedom and lifestyle, that is comfort. It has meaning, because if you do not have financial security, what happens? Well, you are a slave to money. You are enslaved in the pursuit of money to pay bills and expenses. It is a form of slavery if you don't have financial security, because you have to go to work to pay the bills so you can pay rent or electricity or the mortgage or for whatever it is, in order to, well, if you don't pay it, after a couple of months, if you don't pay your electric bill, your electric goes off. After a couple of months, if you don't pay your rent, you're evicted. And then where do you go? So you kind of have to. And then, I know this is a side point, but then the most egregious part of this process is how young people, sort of at such a young age, when they become adults, are not even fully matured. Their prefrontal cortex is not even fully matured until you're around 25. But yet, kids are being brainwashed into having student loans, and then, or when they go to work, they're getting loans for this, loans for that. Over here in Malaysia, loans for a car, loans for something else. Or you're stacking up all of this debt before your brain's even mature enough to comprehend what's happening. And then the more money that you owe out to people, like banks or this or that, the more of a slave you are to making this amount of money per month in order to pay back the loans and the obligations, which causes all this stress and hassle and all of these things. But that's a video for another day on why that's a bad idea, and generally not good for society when we operate in a world that's dominated by things like that. But so the goal of having financial security and financial comfort, and for your business to generate enough revenue so that it's a functional operational business, you don't have to keep putting your savings into it. It is intrinsically a meaningful goal to achieve. And so you can then say that when you achieve that goal, that there is some level of success because you've achieved it. You have to have some kind of a financial security, and this is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need some level of financial security before you can start to think about the things like self-actualization, which is to start to think about what your purpose is in life. So you have to have financial security first, right? It's a meaningful goal. Okay, So when you move forward and then you hit financial security, what happens next? And this is where it leads to loneliness, the loneliness no one talks about in entrepreneurship. So you've achieved the level of financial security, you've achieved the financial goals. So what's the next goal from this? Well, when your needs are met, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is when you start to think about the more things like what's the meaning and purpose of your life. And that's when you start to realise that the natural next goal that you set after achieving one financial milestone, naturally, is another financial milestone. Because that's the process that you've already gone through. You've started to work, well, you finish school and you get to working age and you start to work, and then the purpose of your paycheck then on a month to month is to spend it. Is what a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's certainly what I did. And then you get a bit older and you get a few more life responsibilities in life, and so the next goal that you set yourself is you're making money in order to hit the amount that you need on a month to month basis just to survive. And then that's what you work towards, and then eventually you hit that. And so then the next goal you set yourself is to achieve some level of financial security, whether that's in your business, personal life, whatever. And then you work towards it, and one day, as long as you're diligent, you keep working towards it, and you have some level of discipline, you'll achieve that too. And then one financial goal, two financial goals, three financial goals, all with embedded meaning in them, so you can fulfill the lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy. And then you reach a financial goal, and then no longer you have to worry about money as much. You still have to worry about money, but not as much. You're okay. So you start to think about what's the meaning, what's the purpose, what am I going to do with all of this? And certainly what happened to me. But you naturally set the next goal as financial. But the next financial goal is meaningless. Why would I say that? Well, it's meaningless to some degree, because if you already have financial insecurity, having more financial security is not really gonna be a positive thing for you. It's not going to be a great thing for you. There's no intrinsic motivation to do that, because, I mean, what are you going to do? Buy a second car? Buy a holiday home? Buy a boat? Buy a fancy watch? Buy expensive designer clothes? What are you going to do? You can't really double your lifestyle. You'll say, well, I'm going to go on holiday more. Okay, more power to you. But the reality is that despite you having the money there, you probably won't go on holiday more. It's just sort of a fantasy that you give yourself, because a holiday implies rest, recuperation, fun. A holiday is a form of relaxation and playing what you want to do, but you hit your financial goals and you chase more money. Well, obviously, the more money you chase, the more responsibilities that you have in your business or in your work to justify the higher rates that you get. So actually, the less time that you have per day and per week, and the busier that you become. So that cycle happens. So then you get caught in the rat race and caught in the cycle more and more and more and more. But the disillusionment grows, because you're making progress towards a goal, which is like a financial goal. But you're now trying to search for the meaning and the purpose in what you're doing, and you're probably struggling to find what the answer is. And this is the problem that I wrestled with for a long time. And then I found what my solution was, and that is that for me, it's to anchor my identity in what it means to be a Christian, and then to commit to living out Christian virtues on a day-to-day basis, and then dedicating my company to God and seeing myself as a steward of the business, so that I can use the unique gifts that I have for the benefit of others, and then to pursue that through active day-to-day to proactively pursue becoming Christ-like in everything I do, which is the pursuit of excellence. It is the pursuit of being integrity. It is the pursuit of extravagant love and kindness. It is the pursuit of humble service to people, to actually help them, among other things. And that intrinsically gives things meaning, and that's what I've gone through myself. But back to the point of the video, is that success does feel isolating, because I think this is just an idea, this is a hypothesis, I guess, based on my own personal experience. So I'd love anyone's feedback on this, if anyone's watching. When you're pursuing the financial goals because they have meaning, you're focused on them. You're moving towards them. You're climbing Jacob's ladder towards a meaningful goal. You're making meaningful progression day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, towards a goal which has meaning, because it's going to remove you from the slavery of financial burdens and financial worry. But then when you are released from financial burdens and you start looking for the meaning and purpose in everything else, you then kind of look around you and see, well, everyone else is stuck in the rat race, being busy, and doing all these things. All of these other people, they say that they're too busy to meet up with you and catch up and to basically be a friend to you. They in the kind of, you're faced with situations where you are trying to meet up with a friend, and you've been trying to for not just weeks but months and months and months, and you keep texting and keep asking them, hey, want to do this, want to do that. But always at the last minute, it's cancellation because something else has come up. They can't do it, this and that. For example, we have two close friends here, and they are kind of they sort of chasing their monthly financial goals just to survive, kind of thing. And well, we enjoy spending time with them. We want to spend time with them, but the last time we saw them was 4 months ago. Okay, granted, we went back to England for an extended holiday, and they made a point of seeing us before we left. But before that, it was several months before, and we've been back here for 2 months trying to meet up with them, but every time too busy. It gets it does feel lonely, because you may have achieved your financial goal, and the next goal that you want to pursue no longer has the same meaning, and you then start to think about, well, I want to prioritize relationships and friendships, and I want to prioritize my time doing things which I consider to be more meaningful, fellowship, meeting people, but the people that your friends are too busy to meet up with you, and they no longer prioritize time with you because they have to do X, Y, and Z and work 17 hours every single day and whatnot. And that does feel lonely, and you have to have a strong kind of heartedness in this point, because you ask yourself with your friends that, well, at least from my perspective as well, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, is that maybe I'm kind of asking myself here that, well, I've got one friend and we've arranged to meet up on Sunday 3 times, and we agree, and then always a few days before it cancels. And then you kind of think, well, how many more times am I going to do this when every time that we meet you cancel? Because you start to think that, well, is this something about us? Does it not want to meet with us? And that's the natural response, because it's kind of like rejection over something which I would consider to be a high priority, like spending time with friends. But they clearly do not prioritize the same time, the same friendship, because they have other things to do and they're too busy and whatnot. Which, okay, fair enough. I'm not blaming them. I'm extremely fortunate for what I've been on, and for me to be in a situation where, at least for the short term, I don't have to worry about money. Other people do, and I fully accept that. I fully accept how lucky I am to be in the situation I am. But it does feel kind of isolating. And then another part of it as well is that this is something that I learned the hard way, and it's something that I'm only just starting to understand now. So it's an idea that I've had that I'm just kind of been wrestling with and thinking about, and so I'll develop the idea a little bit here. Maybe you resonate with this as well. And what I've found is, ever since when I was a freelancer for a long time, the only thing that I was focused on was money, making money, and I did not, in hindsight, treat my clients in the best way possible. I viewed them as a way to extract money from them, and I justified this by I'm giving you this kind of ROI. You're making this much money. You're paying me, let's say you pay me 1,000, and I'm making you 6,000. It's a good deal. And so that's the way I operated for so long. But naturally, you are always calculating the time that you spend with clients as, how can I get this done in the fastest way possible in order to get my money, so the amount that I make per unit of time I put into this project is much higher and much better for me. And then obviously that results in you aren't pursuing excellence in what you do because you're taking shortcuts and cutting corners. I did that for a long time, and I wasn't great in that respect. And then I started my own business when I didn't have to worry about the money and as much. And I then tried to imagine the kind of person that I'd like to be as sort of the boss, the company culture that I want to have, and I started to imagine and think about that. And I listened to a lot of podcasts on it too, and learned about it, and I knew what I wanted to be like. I had an idea of what I wanted to be like, what I wanted to do. And so then I started to work with, bring on freelancers, and I tried my best to treat them all in the best way I possibly could. And then all of them that I work with, through various, in fact pretty much every single freelancer that I work with, every single contractor that I work with, every single coach and someone that I work with, minus one or two, it just felt like, things were really good and great at the start until they got into some kind of a groove, and then things started to deteriorate. Communication fell apart, the quality of their work went down, generally wasn't great, and I couldn't understand why. I found it frustrating. And then one by one, all of the people that I work with, and I was generous with what I did to them, because I thought it was the right thing to do, all of them would end up doing something which I would perceive to be a stab in the back. They weren't loyal to me. In a heartbeat they'd go. So there was one person that I work with locally, which I thought was great at the time, and I paid her more than what she should have got on a month-to-month basis. And one day she just said to me, we had a 6-month contract, 6-month arrangement, and then one day halfway through the contract she said, oh, by the way, I've got another job offer that's better, I'm leaving at the end of the month. Actually, I was furious. In hindsight, I did not deal with the situation particularly well. But from my perception, it was, I'm giving you far more money than you deserve. I'm treating you with so much respect and everything I'm doing, and something better comes along in a heartbeat, you're gone. Well, obviously, no wonder that that's going to be the case. Of course, it's going to be the case. She did not perceive the working relationship in the same way that I did. From her perspective, it was purely transactional, in the same way that I was with clients. From her perspective, I was not giving her clear tasks to do, and there wasn't. She was never clear on what she needed to do, because I wasn't clear on what I needed to do, and I'm jumping from one thing to the next. Of course, lack of clarity is going to lead to stress and other issues. Of course, she doesn't want it. And then a better job comes along, but a better position comes along. Well, of course, that's the best thing to do for her. But of course, the whole issue was, I'm approaching it from this perspective that I'm being generous, I'm giving you more than I should, I'm treating you with so much respect, and then, you know, constantly taking her out for meals and paying for all these things, giving her a Christmas bonus, and you know, different things. From her perspective, it was different, it was just transactional. Same way that I was to clients before. I perceived the whole situation as disloyalty. And then I had other people I worked with as well, from the Philippines, and I had what I perceived to be a great working relationship with one of them. Again, she was a young mother, working from home, and you know, all of these things, and so I wasn't paying her that much. It was just an hourly rate, but I knew she wanted stability, so I told her, look, I'll give you 3 hours a day. If I don't give you tasks to fill the time, that's down to me, but I want to give you some kind of stability because it's the right thing to do. And well, that worked relatively good for a while, and then later she was using my the paid subscriptions that I had in the company in order to service her other clients, and in hindsight, perhaps that was a genuine mistake too. You know, if you've got my tab open at the same time and you're working on someone else, okay, I understand. But the implications of that is what upset me, is because the first thing is that the chat was saved as something that was the complete opposite of my core values, which I've explained to them before. So it felt like, well, you're saying in line with what I'm saying and what I'm doing, but well, you know, you're clearly applying for other jobs and doing whatever it is here, but in contrary to my beliefs, which I have a problem with. And it's not a problem, it's a problem that I had. And again, this is not the freelancers' fault, because they're relatively low paid per hour. You know, they need to survive, they need to hit their monthly targets and their monthly goals to survive. So it's not their fault, it's my fault for not anchoring my core values in something that's solid foundation. Instead, it's sort of vague ideas of what this is and what this is and what this is, and I don't like this, I don't like this, I'm against this, but there's no reason behind it. I couldn't articulate why it's not. It is built on sand, and then, of course, it changes all the time because there's no anchor. So how could I expect them to know? I couldn't. It's not their fault. It's my fault. But I noticed that, and then that planted the doubts of disloyalty, despite me being so patient and so good to them. Well, the other implication of that was that if I'm paying you for 3 hours of time per day, and you're using my software, even accidentally, to service another client, the implication of that is that, are you servicing other clients in the time that I'm paying you? If so, you're clearly taking advantage of the situation. These are the things that happened. Well, what's the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm trying to make is that it felt so isolating, and it feels so isolating because I'm going into these relationships, working with freelancers, trying to be the best person that I can be in the situation, to treat them well, to treat them each person as an individual human, to do the best that I can for them, to go above and beyond, to not take advantage, and that's my perception of the situation. And then when they don't reciprocate, or they end up doing things for them contrary to what I want to do, or the perception of what that's happening, it leads to distrust, disloyalty, from my perspective. And the reason is because, and you can't blame them, is because they enter in the relationship because they want the money. They want nothing deeper than the money in the transaction. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to inject all of this extra stuff, all of this extra transformation stuff, to doing good to help other people, to the benefit of other people, into a relationship which they base entirely on money, and it just doesn't work, it just does not compute. And this is the same issue that I've had when I've worked with service providers, vendors, coaches. There's a very recent experience with someone where both my wife and I agree that we've paid a premium price for this particular service, but the experience has been extremely underwhelming, where to the point of I'm emailing this contractor who came as a referral. I'm emailing him multiple times, asking him very specific questions so that I can deliver, the assets to him so he can build what he promised me, but he doesn't respond to emails, he doesn't respond to anything, he doesn't reply to it, and that's ending quite bad. So I'm experiencing that now as well. With coaches I've worked with and spent a lot of money on coaches, it's the same kind of thing most of the time. And the thing is that the coach wants to go in there based on the transaction, them doing it to exchange their time for money, and they look at the relationship from their own self-interest, from their own perspective, from how is this relationship going to benefit me, or how can I position myself in the best possible way to protect me in this working relationship with a coach and a client. In this case, I was the client, but also in the case that I was the vendor to my clients in the past. And you do things to protect yourself because you want the money, and ultimately what that leads to is you just become paid to reaffirm what the client thinks and what the client says is true. And that's what coaches have done to me in the past. And that basically means is that they ask you what you want to achieve, you tell them what you want to achieve, and then they help you achieve that goal. But how do you know that the goal that you are trying to pursue is the right goal? Well, you don't. You don't if you're not anchored in some kind of a solid foundation, which acts as your North Star. And making money beyond hitting financial security is not a meaningful North Star to have, because it just falls apart, at least in my experience. And so the interaction again is transactional. And so you can just paying someone to reaffirm what you're kind of saying and what you're doing. And the reason is because from the perspective of the service provider or the coach in this situation, you want to ask the person what they want to achieve, you want to help them achieve it, and then you'll say, look at what you've achieved, I've helped you do this. But if they don't achieve the goal, you then want to have a body of evidence as support that says, well, this is not my fault, this is not down to my skills, because you want to protect your own reputation and business. Again, the root of all of this is the transaction. So, I've just given you several examples of what I've been in, and what's the pattern in all of these examples, and how does that tie back to why success can feel so isolating? Well, first of all, you need to have some kind of financial security in order to be able to hire people. You need to have some kind of financial security in order to hire coaches and to invest in coaches to help you. And the reason is because, what's more important, putting food on the table or paying a coach an exorbitant amount per hour to help you achieve some kind of a goal? obviously putting food on the table is more important. So you have to have some kind of financial security in order to pursue these higher goals, which is why you invest in a coach. It's why you invest in staff, because you have the cash flow to do it. And so because you have achieved the financial goals, and now you are potentially, or if you're like me, you're struggling now to find a meaning and purpose and searching to identify what your purpose is, you start to realise, well, if you're Christian, you want to anchor your business in biblical principles, like what I did, and then you want to pursue Christ-likeness in what you do. But then you find, because of all of your interactions and based on that transaction, based on the exchange of money between you and your employee, you and your freelancer, you and vendors, you and contractors, you and coaches, whatever it is, that you are trying to approach it from this perspective, but they only approaching it from the perspective of the transaction and to make money. And that's where you feel the disconnect between people. That is something I experienced. I then interpreted the situation from my own perspective and put it down to all of the other ways I could describe it, disloyalty or this or taking advantage and all of these things. Well, no, I was wrong. It's not that, it's just that they view the relationship that you have with them because you're paying them the money in a different way than you are. And it's this disconnect, and that's why it feels isolating, because you're trying to genuinely connect with people. You're trying to genuinely connect and learn more about people, but it's just and to do the right thing to people that you're paying on your team. And because you're paying them on your team and you're setting the example, they're not living up to your expectation. They're not reciprocating what you're doing. They're not responding in a positive way. It does feel isolating. It does feel like there's a disconnect, and it does feel quite stressful to happen. What's the solution? Well, I don't have the answer to this question currently. What I can do is just share what I am currently doing. So the first thing, because this does not always work, and the approach I'm now taking is I have someone that's coming on as a content and outreach operator, and they are going to help me with publishing content and my outreach efforts in a way that's aligned with biblical principles. And I just made it clear in the job posting I put on Upwork that this is the kind of person I'm looking for. I want someone who aligns with my values as a Christian. This is what I'm trying to achieve. This is what the mission is. And one person that I have contacted and I'm starting to work with now, it started off on a positive by specifically mentioning I'm looking for values over other experience and other things. Obviously, someone that aligns on values with experience is the best person, but I would prefer someone that we align on values first. And so far the relationship's gone off positively, but like I've mentioned, always the first few weeks, first month, however it is, it goes up because of the excitement of doing a new thing, and then it usually falls off a cliff when they get into a groove. So I don't know how this is going to play out. Obviously, the other solution is you need to be clear on your vision, what you hope to achieve, how you're going to enact it, and all of this. You have to improve your communication skills to do this, and then you also have to accept that the reality is that even if you find someone who you perceive to be perfectly aligned with your values, they may not be the best contractor to work with, and they may not deliver what you want, and that's just the reality of life. However, the one thing I can say in conclusion would be that if you are doing everything based on transaction, like what I was for so many years, and then having the struggle and disillusionment afterwards of not connecting with the staff or what they perceived from the working relationship is different from what I perceive, and then it's the disconnect that causes problems. Well, if you're doing everything from that perspective where you're focusing on results, skills, experience and things as the primary target, if having these working relationships and having a good relationship with the people you work with is a priority for you, then by basing everything on a transactional sense, everything is down to chance. It's all down to chance if you're going to find the right person or not, and the odds are stacked against you in that respect, especially if you're paying for relatively low skilled labour. Whereas if you focus on values first, people that you want to connect with as a result of shared values, in that case, again, you may connect first on values and then find that the outcome and the service that you have and your experience is not optimal. But you're also more likely to find the right people that you want to build your team with over the long run, because again, it's down to chance, but the odds are a little bit more in your favour compared with when you're focusing on the transactional money per hour results you can get thing to start off with. Well, I hope that has provided some kind of insight. For me, it has definitely helped me develop the ideas. So if nobody watches this video, it genuinely doesn't concern me if anybody watches these videos or not, because the insights that I've gained from me just trying to teach it has been so valuable that in future videos I'm able to articulate the things that I've had to go the long way around to develop the ideas in my own mind, to clarify in my own mind by talking aloud. It means that in the later videos I get to present it much more succinctly. So that's all. See you next time.